introduce Nicholas Vince. And please welcome Simon Bamford. Sorry, Simon, that's for Ash.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, Dave, but it was in my contract. I had a throne.
Next, please welcome Ashley Laurence. And next, please welcome the man that put MonsterMania on the map from the very first show, Mr. Doug Bradley. Okay, so what we'll do is if you have a question, please raise your hand. If I call on you, if you would, please stand up and loudly ask your question so we can hear you. I'll repeat the question so everyone can hear on the microphone, and we'll go from there.
Dave, I am actually standing up now, but you can't see it.
Okay, so our first question is going to come from who? Who's got the first one? Right over here. Yep.
What was the most uncomfortable prosthetic that you ever had to wear?
Uh-oh. I think we better go to the second question. Do you mean in a film, or? So the question, don't look at me that way, Ashley. The question is, what is the most uncomfortable prosthetic you've ever had to wear, and whether it was in a film or not is up to the star to answer. We'll start with Barbie. She's eager to answer this one.
You'd be surprised. Okay, yeah, it was 4 hours in the makeup chair, and it was ugly, and I couldn't talk, which was really irritating to me. Everyone kept saying, shouldn't you be the chairman? But then I did a commercial with two directors and musicians called Godly and Cream. And it was for Wrangler jeans, and it was called What's Going On, What's Going On? And I had to be a robotic tango dancer, and it was choreographed by Bruno Tonioli. Do you guys know who he is? Yeah. He used to be our choreographer when I was in Shock, this group I was in. And they just freshly made these latex masks so we would look more robotic. And we pulled it, and they were skin tight, you pulled it, and I would almost fainted from the stench of the latex. And I still had to robotically tango and fall on my butt countless times from it, you know, it was, that, I have to say that, is that prosthetic makeup though? Because that's just a mask.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's mine.
It was not in Hellraiser. It was a short film which never saw the light of day because it was never completed, because it was the director's first time, and his DOP said, he was a very good director of photography, he said, I'm only going to do this if we use real film, and this was like 15 years ago, and no one was using real film in those days. And it's just, and I remember I had this kind of visor thing on, and it was, the guy did not know what he was doing, and I just remember it being so tight on my face, I thought my nose was going to get crushed. It was just painful, really, really painful. And I was in it for like four hours, something like that. I can't remember they actually shot me in it at all before they decided, oh, yeah, this is just not going to happen. And yeah, that was it. It was horrible. So it made me really, really, really appreciate how talented and wonderful the guys working on Hellraiser and Nightbreed were. Because when you get put in the hands of an amateur who says, oh yeah, I can do prosthetic makeup. No, you can't. You really, really can't.
There would have to be Julia's skin and the head-to-toe blood and too. But I kind of like it.
Mine was to stop me snoring, and I see a lot of people nodding. They make some. I know you've been there. I know they make some.
I'm currently there.
They make
some. Not right now. I'm not wearing an invisible one.
They make some very cruel prostheses for stopping you snoring that also stops you sleeping, which is, so I suppose it kind of works in that way. And your partner has a lovely night's sleep, but you don't. So, yeah.
Wow. Mine's very good. In fact, I was just wearing it to have a nap before I came down here. And I'm wearing that and my noise-cancelling headphones, because the air conditioning is so fucking loud. It's the only way I can sleep. Well, I think the prosthetics principally that I wore were across 8 Hellraiser films and Nightbreed, and another movie involving the same image animation crew called Proteus, which I bet none of you have seen. Which I played a 90-something-year-old man called Mr. Brimstone, but they're basically all the same, and they weren't necessarily all that uncomfortable. Speaking of being in the hands of amateurs, though, I'll go to the days of the theatre work prior to Hellraiser, so into the 1970s. There was one attempt at making a life cast. And I'm pointing the finger here at Mr. Clive Barker on 2 occasions. And I wish he was here. We used plaster of Paris. And we had not a clue what we were doing, because we never did in anything that we did. As Clive didn't when he started directing Hellraiser. It was all in the same spirit. And I had a beard at the time, and we didn't really Vaseline enough. So when it came to remove it, it wouldn't. And I remember Phil Rimmer taking a hammer and chisel to try and break, but he also mixed the plaster of Paris so well, it was rock fucking solid. And I was there for a very long time, and it's the only time that I've ever vaguely started to panic that I've never actually seen the light of day again. The other occasion would be we did a production of Oscar Wilde's play called Salome, and I played Yochanan, which is John the Baptist, and of course he gets blinded in the course of the story, so Clive decided that he would blind me, which he did by applying paper mache to my forehead and over my eyes, and built up ridges around my eyes so that my eyes looked sunken, and then painted it, probably with watercolor, because we wouldn't have known any better. That was fine, it probably looked pretty good. The problem was that I was completely blind. My fellow Cenobites will understand. But this was theatre. So I had a rope tied around my middle and measured off to the back of the stage so that I could walk around without wandering off into the audience. I'd probably go to those 2.
I want to see a picture of you with a beard.
There are plenty around.
Oh yeah.
I have one at my table, Dave. Just come and see me tomorrow. I do have one from those days. And hair.
When I started doing Hellraiser, the first thing they applied was a bald cap, which kept my hair up and out of the way. I had quite a lot of it back in the day. Full-blown hippie I was.
We all did, yeah.
Okay, we'll take another question. Who has one? Right here. You mean the television show?
The Hulu.
The Hulu?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, have they seen the new Hulu Hellraiser that came out, I believe, last year?
Yeah.
And what was their thoughts on it?
Who wants to start?
I'll go first. I love it. I really appreciated it. 2 reasons. I was in conversation with a gentleman who played Chatterer, and the fact they cast somebody 6'6" to play Chatterer, I thought it was cool. I liked the makeup and what they were doing. It was different because the techniques have come on, but also because I ended up by writing Hellraiser comics back in the 1990s. I know what it takes to work in this world, to come up with something new, to come up with something different, but to remain faithful to the spirit and the style. I thought they did a good job. It's not the original Hellraiser, it never can be. But I thought, I particularly liked the one shot when I said they referred to the lament configuration, and you see what you think is the box, and then they turn it around and no, it's actually a different form of the box, the idea of the different things. And I particularly liked it because I used that idea in one of my comics. Hellraiser is like, oh yeah, you have actually different forms of these things. So yeah, I thought they did a good job. I enjoyed it, except the bastards killed Chatterer again. But it's okay. He's been in every film in some sort ever since, you know, or throughout. So it's fine. He'll come back.
Can I go next? Okay, I looked forward to it with enormous anticipation. I thought Jamie Clayton did a great job as the Hell Priest. I thought the makeup looked amazing. It looked great. And I loved Voight, the guy, because he was closer to my age. And I thought, yeah, I can get him. But my one sadness was, and I watched the first Hellraiser again the next night, just to remind myself of that, is they swapped out 2 sexy adults indulging in S&M sex with drug-addled teens. Now, I'm not a drug-addled teen, so I couldn't relate, you know? And I said to my husband, I really need to watch the Hellraiser first one again. And he said, he's not a horror film fan at all. But we watched it again, and it was 20 minutes shorter. And I said, okay, what did you think? And he said, I think Clive Barker is a genius. I mean, I guess it's a worthy reboot. This is only my opinion. It looked fantastic. I just wanted a bit more down and dirty, nasty sex in it, I guess. I'm still just a nice Canadian girl, Ashley. And no, I'm not sorry.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've answered this question at my table a bit. I really like the practical effects, the fact that they used the house and they used theatrical effects, which kind of goes back to the Dog Company days rather than CG, which they easily could have used. There was one moment that made me giggle, which was when they were escaping from the evil man in the big house, which was a changing puzzle box, and they drove away in what looked like the mystery machine, and they suddenly stopped, and I thought, we've got 5 teenagers in the mystery machine, we've suddenly gone into Scooby-Doo. What's going on? It only lasted like 5 minutes, but if you watch it again, or if you haven't watched it, you won't be able to not see that.
I shared the mystery machine moment. I did actually think, no, really? Okay. I thought the star of the show was the design. By a long way, it was the strongest thing. Like, I loved the metal grid around the house. I didn't know why the fuck, or what the fuck, but it was a very cool thing. The house as puzzle box was cool. Weirdly, that flashed me back to a screenplay for Hellraiser 3 that was never shot, story by Clive Barker. Everything gets recycled. But I had already posted prior to seeing the movie that I thought the redesign of Pinhead was superb. The redesign of the makeup I really liked. I loved the way they decided to change the palette, using those kind of intestinal purples and pinks and so forth, and dawn colours as well. I thought it was really cool. And when Jamie first appeared on screen, I perked up, really for the first time in the movie. I will admit I was getting a bit bored with it by then. And she's tiny. There's nothing of her across the shoulders. She looks rather doll-like and rather childlike. And it's such a contrast when the Cenobites first appear in the hospital in Hellraiser. It's very masculine, although I'm wearing a skirt. It's very,
A sequined skirt.
leather and musculature, and it's very in your face and strong. And I'm looking at Jamie and I'm remembering Clive's very first description of the Pinhead Cenobite in The Hellbound Heart. Its voice was light and breathy, like that of an excited girl. I played around with that when I was reading the screenplay, and I couldn't make any sense of it without sounding ridiculous. And that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted something to match the image. Very quiet, very delicate, very nasty, still very threatening and horrible, but a different tone. And then when she spoke, she sounded like me. I was disappointed, because I thought they hadn't had the courage of their convictions, and the voice didn't match the image. And then Chatterer had like 3 shots done. And it felt to me, although some wonderful images, the image of the Pinhead, not Pinhead, in the distance standing on the water is beautiful, wonderful image. But I just felt like they didn't really know what to do with the Cenobites. They weren't really very proactive.
I just felt there wasn't enough of Jamie. That's one thing I wanted to say. They needed more Cenobites.